Hi everyone, welcome to episode 6 of my season 2 Factorio playthrough. My name is Poober, and this is the first episode of the 2018 new year, so I hope it's been a good new year for you guys. Thanks for being patient with me for the holidays that we've had recently. But my first task for the new year is to finally get an upgraded furnace setup. We're starting over here near the stone patch where since the previous episode I got a couple things implemented since then. We now have a couple stone miners with them all feeding directly into one item or another. 2 of them directly feed into an assembler, and then of course the one in the middle feeds into a stone furnace, which then converts the stone into stone brick. And then the one at the bottom is making stone furnaces, and the one at the top will be devoted to making landfill as soon as we get that done getting researched. In the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and take our stack of stone furnaces that we have ready to go and make the long commute back to our main base over near the lake over there. And I'll see you in a second and we'll finally start getting our new furnace setup upgraded. So I made it back to our very early game base area, but at this point I plan on grabbing at least the stack of miners that we have in this box over here along with some more stone furnaces from this box. And then I'm essentially going to start from scratch in our miner setups. So we have this very early primitive version of a iron mining setup, as well as this version for copper mining, and then even our coal setup needs to be revamped as well. So what I plan on doing is ripping everything up and then starting from scratch with a new completely revised electric miner setup, and then that will feed into our new furnace setup. And welcome back everyone. As you can tell from that sped up clip, I took down all of our previous miners setup and added in a brand new furnace setup here with our stone furnaces, and added in a temporary spot for our iron part of the main bus, and that will feed back into our assembler setup down here. What I'm planning on doing next is duplicating our furnace setup that we have here that will be devoted to our iron, and adding in another section for our copper, and then a third furnace setup for our steel that we'll eventually have as well. And that way we'll at least have the basics getting automated and smelted, and then feeding into our main assembler setup. Oh, and our fluid handling just got done getting researched. But in the meantime, we do need to hook this into our electricity and make sure that everything works and gets put onto the belts appropriately. So I'm going to extend our electric pole setup so that that way it feeds back into our main electric line that we have over here. There we go. So let's check it out now and double check that it works, and hopefully we have enough electricity from our 4 steam engines over there. We may need to add on to that. I'm just going to check, and we're definitely using more than we have getting produced, so I'm going to make a couple more steam engines and a couple more boilers. So these will work, although they won't work as efficiently because we don't have enough power. It looks like we're missing 1 electric pole right there. But otherwise, everything else is getting in our electric setup that we have. It's just not very efficient right now. So I have divvied up our iron ore and our coal so that half of each product gets onto the belt lines there. This is my very poor way to balance the belts, so there's going to be some modification of this down the road. But that was just a very early attempt to get that done. So let's go ahead and work on our steam engine setup here real quickly. We're just going to expand it, I think, by doubling it. So we can do like this. We're going to have to get rid of this belt a little bit and reconfigure that. But there we go. We can reconnect our belts again. Add in some burner inserters here. And then some electricity should finish up. There we go. I'm going to do the same thing to the other side here. Add in 2 more steam engines. And then 1 more boiler. And then we've essentially doubled the electricity production that we have. There we go. So let's take a look at our electricity production now. Hopefully it's much better. Not quite. We're out of the red and into the yellow. So it looks like we still have to increase our electricity production somewhat. So I'm going to go ahead and do that off camera now and add in another version of this factory setup for our copper, and then add another one for our steel, which I don't know if we've researched yet. I think we have actually. So we'll go ahead and add in another one for the copper and steel, and then I'll see you guys once that is done. Well, this is the finished product. I now have 3 separate furnace sections devoted to their respective products. The one up at the top is for iron plate, the one in the middle is for steel, and the one at the bottom is for copper plate. And then our mining section is revamped as well with the iron patch, the coal, and then the copper down below. We even have a coal line that now goes separately to our steam engine setup over here near the lake. So everything is reworked, even our electricity is upgraded so that we have more power to support our new furnace sections. I did try to keep in mind the correct ratios for our furnace setup. So this is something you've probably seen with other YouTubers or other builds for furnace setups early game. It's a standard 48 stone furnaces to fully compress a yellow belt. And that is essentially what I've done for each of these separate products, with the exception of our steel in the middle. So the issue with the steel is that it takes 5 iron plate for 1 steel product, and that is of course not met with this setup here. But what I instead did was just basically devote half of the blueprint that I used for our iron plate and our copper plate, and use 1/2 of that for the iron plate production and the other half going towards the steel production. So what we have are 24 of the stone furnaces that use the iron ore and convert it into the iron plate, and then the iron plate product goes into converting that into the steel itself. So this is the only exception where we do not have the correct ratios early on, but that's not what's important this early on in the game to me. I at least wanted some sort of steel production, which we definitely now have. Well, with that said, I think we're going to go ahead and end this episode here. I know there wasn't a whole lot of narration this time around, but I did get a ton done that will hopefully set the groundwork for getting even more done in future episodes. So thanks again for joining me for episode 6, and I'll be seeing you guys soon for episode 7.